Sloka number 3, 4, 5 and 6. Shri Bhagavan uvAca aksaram brahma paramam svabhAvo'dhyAtmam-ucyate bhUta bhAvod bhavakaro visargah karma samjnitah adhibuTtam ksaro bhAvah purusas cAdhidaivatam adhiyajno evAtra dehe-bhrAm vara anta kalE mAmEva smaran-muktvA kalEvaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah yam vapi smaran-bhAvam tyajatyante kalEvaram tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad-bhAva bhavitah. This chapter began with Arjuna's 7 questions in the first 2 slokas, of which Bhagavan answered first 6 questions in sloka number 3 and 4. We have seen them elaborately. 7th question was how an individual can remember God at the time of death. And it is very important to know God at the time of death, because whatever an individual remembers at the time of death, that is what he is going to become in the next life. This is our principle in Sanatana Dharma. This reincarnation principle follows this logic. Then the question may be, then I can do whatever I want to do throughout my life and then somehow try to remember God at the time of death. The fact is, whatever that we have thought during our entire life, that alone we will think at the time of death. Simplest experiment if we want to conduct within this 1 hour session. Let us say we want to think of Bhagavan and Bhagavad Gita. How many times we think of other things in this 1 hour? Which shows we do not have any control over our thoughts, even when we are in our best physical health, best mental health. It is not in our control. Unless we have prepared this in our subconscious mind. How many times unconsciously we think of problems at home, problems at office, problems in relatives, their life, around the world, while either doing puja or japa or doing Vedanta Shravana. And this is when we are not sick. This is when we are not overpowered by disease. Imagine what will happen when we are angam galitam, palitam mundam, dashanavhinam, jatam tundam. When the old age is there with all its force, what are we going to think? Suddenly, can we think of God? Bhagavan says, whatever you have been thinking throughout your life, that alone will come at the time of death also. Then what we should do? So the next shloka is Bhagavan's ultimate teaching to every common individual, every person. He says this we all must do. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu Mamanusmara yudhyaca mayyarpita-mano buddhi mAmEva samshayah. In some books you might see samshayam. Samshayah, we will just go with that. Other is also correct only. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyaca mayyarpita-mano buddhi mAmEva samshayah. Tasmat, therefore, O Arjuna, because this is the case, what is the case? That an individual will get that as the destination, what he remembers at the time of death, and whatever that person thinks at the time of death is nothing but what that person has been thinking throughout his life. Therefore, this was the question of Parikshit Maharaj in Bhagavatam. What should an individual do while living, and what should an individual do at the time of death? Which means how we should live and how we should die. This is entire Bhagavatam. So all our scriptures, how nicely they are connected, if we can see these connections. Bhagavan says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. You remember me, mam anusmara. Smara means you remember. Anusmara means you know me and remember. Continuously. Sarveshu kaleshu, all the time. Bhagavan, even when I set aside half hour, at that time also I don't remember you wholeheartedly and completely. And you are saying, these are Bhagavad Vacan. Bhagavan himself says, if you want to attain me, sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. All the time you remember me. Okay, I am going to drop all my activities now. I am not going to do anything. Whatever little that I was actually doing otherwise, contributing more problems than receiving. Right? Giving more than what we take. So now I will not do that also. I will just remember God. Bhagavan immediately says, Yudhyaca. And you go on fighting also. That also I am doing. yudhyacha does not mean go on fighting and remember me. Yudhya means, Arjuna, you do your duty of fighting, and in that way, let everyone do their duty and remember me. But of course he says, remember me and then do your duty. This mam anusmara yudhyacha, this phrase is very important. You might have seen, in a lot of people's house, sometimes they have the big poster. One is very famous. Bhagavan Sri Krishna driving the chariot and Arjuna sitting at the back. Yada yada hi dharmasya, that shloka will be there with 2-3 mistakes in that shloka. If you have noticed that, you will know. Next time when you see that poster, open your Bhagavad Gita book, that shloka, and you see. You will find some mistakes. And what has happened is that has become the standard. So everywhere that mass printing with mistake. Glanir bhavati, it is dirgha there. Srijamyaham, that halant is missing there. Anyway. So that is one. Another you will find is this. Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Only that much. Remember me and do your duty. Now somebody says, you said sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. And now you are also saying do your duty. Both are not possible. We will see that. Because at any given time, we can have only one thought. If we try to do 2 things at a time, we will not do justice to anything. mayyarpita-mano buddhihi, you, the one who has offered your mind and intellect to me, asamshayaha mAmEva eshyasi. Doubtlessly you shall attain me. So, Bhagavan here says, who should do, what they should do, when they should do, and what they will get. 4 things. Who should do, when, what, and result. Who should do? mayyarpita-mano buddhihi. This is the qualifier for the person. The one who has offered his mind and intellect to me. Bhagavan openly says, to me. Me means Ishvara, Paramatma. What he should do? Mam anusmara yudhyacha. He should remember me and do the duty. When? Sarveshu kaleshu, all the time. What will he get? mAmEva eshyasi, you will get me. That's all. And Bhagavan says, do not doubt. Means, do not think, I don't know, I will do all these things, and at the time of death, where will I end up? And nobody knows. He says, don't worry. This is guaranteed. Now, so that mayyarpita-mano buddhihi, that we have seen in earlier chapters also, what is meant by offering mind and intellect, and Bhagavan is going to talk about that in this whole Dvitiya Shatkam, up to chapter 12. Actually, up to 18th chapter, this theme will come. Offering mind and intellect means what? And it will become clear with this mam anusmara yudhyacha. What is meant by you remember me also and do your duty? See, if we have to write one statement, right? Like little longer statement. Let's say 10 words are there. In your mind, you try to remember God as Shri Krishna, or Shri Krishna Sharanam-mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam-mama. And you try to write that statement, which is something else. You cannot even remember the words of that statement that you have to write. And if you write, you will forget what you are remembering, chanting. Any Lord's name you take. It is not possible to do two things at a time, because we can have only one thought in our mind at a time. Then what is meant by remembering God also and doing our duty? So truly speaking, if we have paid attention to first 6 answers, first 6 answers of this chapter, what Bhagavan has communicated is, I alone am Brahma, Adhyatma, Karma, adhibuTta, Adhidaiva, adhiyajno. Which means, if we become clear about this, whatever we are doing, wherever, everything is nothing but that paramam alone. Then, at the time of death, if any thought comes, what will be our understanding? That this is nothing but God alone. Then there is no struggle. And therefore, whatever that we are doing as our duty, our understanding will be that I am doing this not as I. Here, this is adhibuTta, right? This body, adhibuTtam, ksaro bhava. What is inside? Adhyatma, that consciousness. So this and this both are that paramatma tattva alone. Because Bhagavan alone said in 7th chapter, mine is apara prakriti, mine is para prakriti, and I alone hold or control both of them. So one way of understanding is that everything is nothing but that God alone. That's what he said, Mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. Everything is pervaded in me. And therefore, no matter what I do, I am always one with that God. I am never separate. This is the upasana. This kind of dhyanam, this kind of thinking is called upasana. And so this is one way. Let us say we didn't get that idea, because the moment some name and form comes in front, we forget that this is adhibuTta, all that disappears, this is so and this is how it is. Then how to remember God all the time? Then also it is possible. How? So we do this in general for everything. For example, if, let's say, there was one individual who was single and he was living his life, and then he decides to get married. Now, most of you have gone through that experience. So you know, the moment that individual decides to get married, so the person is identified, in all the thoughts, he is not going to think about himself alone. Simultaneously, there will be this thought whether my husband or my wife is going to like this or not. If this person is invited somewhere, he wants to ask, can I bring my wife or would-be wife? So now, with every thought, the background shruti is, this other person is there. If somebody says, you want to come to this temple puja, yes, he will go there. This is the prasad. Earlier, he used to eat everything and wipe his hands. Now, he will say, give me prasad in a piece of paper, I will take home. Why? There is somebody else who is also going to take this prasad. So what has started happening? He is not continuously remembering, my wife. Not like that. But in the background, he knows there is another person in my life. And all my karmas, she is partner or he is partner. Buying new clothes, what is her taste? I think she will like it. Or let me take her also. And then a child is born. You must see their passwords. When they are alone, password will be some weird name. When they get married, all passwords will change. You may think, how do you know all these things? All passwords will have spouse name with some other characters here there. When the first child is born, spouse name is out. Second child is born, first child's name is gone. Or it depends, like husband, wife, if two people are there, one will have this password, the another will have that. After a few years, once again old passwords will come. All other names will go. Or he'll become very spiritual. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, if the first child is born, then, or even about to be born, all thinking will revolve around that new child. Looking for a house, do we have another room where our guest is going to come? That means individual is doing his or her duty and remembering for whom I am doing all these things. House is for whom? Car is for whom? Child seat is for whom? All my income is for whom? The whole schedule is going to change. This food, whether child likes it or not. Moms also, when they go for groceries, so many vegetables will be there. But if my child doesn't eat this and that, mom is not going to make them. So while shopping, child's memory is there in the background. So mam anusmara yudhyacha means go on doing your duty, remembering why you are doing your duty. For whom? Kasmai devaya havisha vidhema. Who is the ultimate recipient? Like that, we have to remember that I am doing all these things to attain that God who is Purna Swarupa, Ananda Swarupa, all pervading Lord. And for that alone I am doing everything. So I don't have to stop doing anything. But in every action, that thought is always there. This is for prapti, attainment of that all-pervading God. So that thought is never lost. Even though consciously we don't repeat that. That is what Bhagavan says, Mam Anusmar. Therefore, mayyarpita-mano buddhi will be natural. Mind and intellect will not go anywhere else. And if we have really understood what Bhagavan has said so far and tried to practice that, Bhagavan says, mAmEva eshyasi then. There is no other way. You will not think of anything else. Otherwise, at the time of death, some other thought will come. So this has to be consciously brought in our mind. What Bhagavan is saying is, do not wait for anta kalE. Start now. To those who are young and on spring break, they better start now itself. Start with a little in everyday schedule. See, our Indian way of living, religion is part of our daily life. First thing that we wake up in the morning, we see Bhagavan. Karagre vasate Lakshmi, karamule Saraswati, karamadhye tu Govinda, prabhate karadarshanam. Then before we put our foot down, samudra vasane Devi. Then it is said first thing is we should see God. That's why do not have God's temple somewhere. In your bedroom you keep some form of God. You don't have to have the whole temple there, but at least have something so that easy access. Like how you keep your laptop in your bedroom and that big TV, those things are not going to be useful. You can have smaller picture of God. But that should come to you. Otherwise, in next life we will become some chip. Fit in the computer somewhere. Or mouse. Running around. And then, after bath, puja. Before eating, Bhagavan's name. If we don't do all the sandhya, at least morning and evening, then special festivals, observances, at every regular interval, if we remember God, any new purchase, any new activity in life, new undertaking, Bhagavan. This is the lifestyle that our rishis had in mind for us. Then they said, this is your last life, if you go by these principles. I think that's why realization rate was very high in Satyuga, etc. Now that has come down. We wanted to become more and more westernized. Which means replace Bhagavan and have TV. That is our definition of westernization. That's all. Bigger closet, small shrine. That is how we have defined everything. Wardrobe should be very big. So many clothes. Mandir, I never visit anyway. From outside only I'll do namaskar. So underneath the stairs, most common location for Bhagavan. Because in the planning it was never thought of. After everything is done, we didn't have room for God. Okay, here there is some room. Put him there, somewhere. And that too we should be able to cover when our friends come. Because they should not feel that we have become too spiritual. And anta kalE, what do we want to remember? God. Bhagavan says, whom are you fooling? mayyarpita-mano buddhihi mAmEva eshyasi asamshayah. Now, how to remember you Bhagavan regularly? So now Bhagavan gives further instructions.